I believe art therapy can have such a positive effect on our mental health. I have personally suffered with anxiety, depression, and intense stress, which really affects your daily life. This tutorial has been designed to help give us some relief from anxiety, whether we're watching it when we feel particularly anxious, or we're going to paint along with it. So whether you'll be painting along or just watching with a cup of tea, I really hope this brings a little bit of peace into your day. As always, the materials used will be listed in the description box. First of all, what I'm going to do is damp my brush using a bit of water. So as usual, I'm going to start mapping it out. So first of all, I'm going to just take a little bit of the olive green and I'm going to pop in where we're going to have the lake. So I want the lake to come maybe just below centre, so about here. And then I'm just going to pop in the mountains in the background. So I'm going to have a foreground mountain which is going to come up to about here. So all these lines can definitely move about. For now, we're just going to sort of add the basic map in, but these can definitely change. So first I'm going to start on the sky. So I'm going to take some of my phthalo blue and I'm going to add a fair chunk of white. So we are going to have some clouds here as well, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of these sky bits in, and then we're going to go around the rest of it in a minute with some clouds. So as you come up, you can add more darker phthalo blue, so basically less white. So we know that blue and green are definitely very calming colours, and this can really help you if you're feeling a little bit on edge. These colours can really give you a little bit more of a positive energy. Okay, so I'm just going to rinse my brush out now. So now we're going to create some clouds around those areas. So I'm going to take some white and I'm going to add that to that blue there. And I'm also going to take a little bit of raw umber. Just a tiny bit is all you need. It's going to really grey those blues down. So you want sort of like a really lovely duck egg sort of colour. And then I'm going to start taking that colour just into the areas that we've got there. And don't worry about going over your mountain bit here, because we can put the mountain back over the top. Okay, so the further up we get, I'm just going to create some more paint, and I'm going to add a little bit more brown in this time. And not as much white, so it's a little bit duller. You can use that colour to sort of come in little areas in those clouds. Just pop a bit of water on your brush if it's not spreading so easily. Sometimes the first layer on a painting, the canvas can really absorb the paint, so if you need to use a little bit more water, that's fine. Okay, lovely. So what I'm going to do now is take some white and add that to the mixture. And then I'm going to start going over the top of the clouds. Clouds are full of all different tones, and that's what makes them look more lifelike when you add more different tones. So either add in lighter colours or darker colours or more muted colours. Just building up the layers, and you can take that as far as you like. You know, you can do a lot more layers than me. Just do whatever you feel that you want to do. Next, I'm going to take some white straight from the palette, and I'm going to then use that to add in some texture, and obviously it's going to be a lot more brighter white. I really love to see texture in clouds because I think it gives them a lot more movement and makes them look a lot more lifelike. And I really love that painterly effect. And I'm using my big brush and I'm sort of rotating it as I do a brush stroke. So I'll do one sort of down and then I'll move the brush and do it the other way and back and forth to create sort of a random brush stroke. Okay, so next I'm going to start on the mountains. Now the really important thing to remember here is the further away something is, the less vibrancy the colour has, and the closer it is, the more vibrant. So what we're going to do using our paint, we're going to just dull the background colours and make them super bright. So we're going to save the colours that are directly on the palette for more areas up at the front. You'll see what I mean hopefully as we go into the painting. So first of all, I'm going to take my olive green, and into that mixture I'm going to add a little bit of indigo, just a tiny bit, and a bit of brown or raw umber. I'm going to add just a little bit of white to that so we can see the colour a lot better. So I'm just going to add a bit more brown into that so we get like a browny green colour. Okay, so I'm going to start putting in the background now. You can pretty much just add whatever shapes that you want to. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit more white into that, just a small bit, and I'm just going to pop that at the back and sort of blend it in coming down. Okay, and then wash your brush out. Next we're going to create this big mountain here and this one here. Okay, so here I'm going to take the olive green again. And add a bit of brown. And once again I'm just going to add a little bit of indigo. And a bit of white. So basically the same mixture that we just made, but a lot darker. And I'm going to basically put that in where these front mountains are. So we're going to be adding lots more detail, but for the first layer, this is what I'm going to put on. So whilst that's still a little bit damp, I'm going to take some brown or raw umber and I'm going to add a bit of white. And I'm going to start adding in some little details on the rock. So you can use little tiny brush strokes going up and down, sort of using the brush to blend as you go into the green. And this is just going to give it a little bit of definition and make it look like the rock face is coming down. And then I'm going to rinse off my brush. Now using olive green directly from the palette, I'm going to start taking that in quite thick so we can see the texture really nicely. And I'm going to start adding this coming up to the mountain now to meet the rocks that we've just put in. And it's really nice doing this while the paint is still wet because you can use your brush strokes to sort of half blend it, half not. And again, that just creates that really nice painterly effect. Don't worry too much about the bottom because we're going to pop some trees in there. Lovely, and wash your brush out. So next I'm going to take some sap green, which is a slightly more vibrant green, and I'm just going to take that in to little areas in the mountain and once again blend it into the colours that we've already got on there that are still a little bit wet. So these are basically going to be little sockets of trees where the sunlight is just catching them, which is what's making them more vibrant. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of white to that sap green, just so it's a little bit more pastel, and once again just sort of create little sockets. We don't have to make it look completely like the subject, like I'm not going to be painting loads of little tiny trees here, which you can do if you want more realistic. I really like this sort of bold brushstroke effect and just more of a suggestion rather than anything else. I really like paintings where you can obviously tell what it's supposed to be, but then when you look up close, it's just brush strokes. To me, that's really interesting. Okay, great. So I'm going to wash my brush out now. Okay, so now we're going to focus on this line, which I'm going to do a line of trees before we get to the lake so that we can have a lovely reflection. So first of all, we're going to have the olive green because it's dark green, a bit of indigo and brown. So we want this mixture to be quite dark because this is going to be the background, and underneath the trees. We're going to be painting trees on top of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a loose line. And to stop it looking liney, I'm just going to gently brush up and down to blend it into the mountains. As I say, we're going to be putting trees on top of this anyway. So that's where the trees are going to be. Then we're going to take this line down again, and this is going to provide the reflection from the trees onto the lake. Which I feel like is going to be the most fun because I love water and I love the beauty of it. So I think what we'll do, I think we'll wait for the middle band to dry to pop the trees on it later, and I think we can start working on the lake now. Obviously, a body of water is going to reflect what's around it. So instead of just going straight for the blue, I'm going to be blending a lot of greens in there. And I think the closer to the edge is going to be darker, and the more we come out, the more it's going to reflect the sky. So for the base layer, I'm going to take lots of green, and I'm going to add just a little bit of the phthalo blue in there just to give it a bit of a turquoise hit. And using just a bit of water just to keep it fluid and loose. I'm just going to brush back and forth. And this is just so satisfying and it's very, very calming. And you can get really creative here. You can add in more blue in different areas, like that, or you can add in the lighter greens. You can add in whatever colours you like, pretty much. Now I'm going to start reflecting the sky, so I'm going to start adding white into that mixture. And a lot of these colours are very translucent, which means you can see the canvas underneath. But white is not translucent, so as soon as you start adding white to something, it becomes opaque. But I really like the mixture of the translucence and opaque when we're talking water, because I mean obviously water is translucent, so and to just blend it, if you've got like, say I've got like a horrible line like that and I'm like, oh no, all you need to do is just take your brush and move it back and forth, side to side, to just gently blend that in. Lovely, and you can keep going and adding colours in while it's wet. I'm going to take a little bit of brown and white and a little bit of olive green. Just to add in some more colours and almost look like the lake floor. So I'm just using a mixture of greens, the phthalo blue, just to create some really nice turquoise colours. There's something so peaceful about mountains and lakes together. It's just like the ultimate chill out recipe. Ever since I went to the Alps, we went to go and see Mont Blanc and a few other nearby beauties and attractions, and it was just incredible. The thing that had me most awe-inspired was the size of it all. You know, you see these pictures and you don't really understand the size of these mountains and lakes, and just everything together is so beautiful and just overwhelming. And I think that's why I really felt drawn to paint this today, because I know how much looking at all that beautiful view calmed me down and relaxed me, and I really wanted to share a similar feeling with you guys. Okay, so now I feel like definitely the base is done, at least. So I'm going to rinse my brush out. So this is what we have so far. There's definitely some refinements that need doing, and there are still some bits to add. But so far, I'm really liking the direction that it's going in. So next, I'm going to take a slightly smaller brush. This is a size 6 ProArt ProLean Plus Series 009, and it's a filbert style, which are great because you can use it as a flat brush or a round brush. So I'm going to just give that a quick rinse just to dampen it. And something that's standing out to me right now is not really working at the moment is the background doesn't seem to blend in great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt these two colours together and sort of just blend that in. So I'm going to take some of the olive green. I'm going to add just a bit of indigo in there. Ooh, that was a bit too much maybe. And make sure that you guys stay hydrated. I'm actually having a chamomile tea, which again is great for anxiety. And I'm having it in my eco cup, which I find that being eco-friendly is also another thing that really helps my anxiety, because it makes me feel like I'm living in harmony with the planet. And just that alone can have quite a calming effect. So I'm going to add some olive green, a bit of brown, and a little bit of indigo. To sort of create a colour in between these. And then I'm just going to take that up. To blend that into the background mountains. And I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm not going to touch this mountain in the background because that really is in the background. And I'm just going to rinse my brush so that it's completely clean with just clean water, and then I'm just going to take that line here and just blend that up further so that there's no harsh lines. In fact, you can even use your finger. Okay, that is looking much better. Okay, next what is going to be super fun is adding the trees in. So I am going to take some olive green and I'm going to add some white to that. I'm going to get a lot of paint on the edge of my brush on the tip, and here I'm just going to sort of go up and down in like a jagged motion. You can go taller sometimes, you can go smaller. But it's this jagged motion that is going to create trees. And as this is more further in the background, the jagged edges are going to get smaller. And then they're going to get larger again. Okay, and then rinse your brush off. This is a little bit white here. Then rinse your brush off. Next I'm going to take the sap green, which is a lovely bright green, and I'm going to add just a little bit of white to that to make it even lighter. If you've got a yellow hanging around, you can add just a little smidge of yellow as well. It doesn't matter if you don't, it's not crucial at all, but it just really brings out that bright green even more. I'm just going to use this for now, and we can start adding in like the banks of the lake. Okay, so next taking the sap green straight from the palette, we're going to do the same tree motion now. So we're going to be going up and down. You can be quite textured here. Okay, and then wash your brush out. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to start adding in the reflection. So taking that same green, we can start adding the trees in the same jagged way. Now we need to work pretty quickly here. Or you can do it in sections, it's completely up to you if you want to take your time. Because I'm going to rinse my brush off. Using my big brush, I'm just going to blend in those lines going up and down. You still want to keep a little bit of definition, but obviously you want it to look like it's a reflection so that the water's taking it. And then the further away you can just really blend that out. And then rinse your brush out. So next, for the darkest colour, we're going to use indigo and olive green. So we get a really deep dark colour. So this is what we're going to use to define the trees now. So what we're going to do is just start taking that in little areas in the trees. Just to separate little bits and to create a shadow. I'm coming up from the bottom of the trees. And you can use a much smaller brush for this as well, which will give you more control. Lovely. And then taking that, I'm going to again add in some little reflections. So taking that dark colour and then just bringing down some of those lines. You can even bring them down quite far actually, we don't have to stay up at the top. The longer down we come, the more still the water will look. And if it feels like it's too of a downward arrow, it doesn't look blended enough, just take your brush down and move it side to side as you go down. And that's going to look so blended in, like it's such a good reflection. And of course we don't all want the reflections to be at the same height because that will be unrealistic. So some create them really long, some create darker, some create lighter. Okay, that's awesome. Then just rinse your brush out. I've just taken a photo so I can see it from that sort of point of view, and I feel like these trees, some need blending just a little bit more. And also this section here just needs blending a little bit. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush off. You can either leave it there if you're happy with it. I think it looks absolutely fab just like it is. Or if you want to do a little bit more work and you have a palette knife, then we can add a few details with the palette knife. I think palette knives work really, really great when painting, especially nature, because it has a very random effect, if that makes sense. So what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to take some of the sap green on my palette knife and I'm going to run that along here, along that line where the trees are. I'm getting the paint on the side of my palette knife, like that, and then I'm just running it across. Then I'm going to get some indigo and olive green, which is the darker green, and I'm going to do the same thing with that. So I'm going to get it on the side of my palette knife and I'm going to run it across just underneath the line we've just made. And what you can see is that the canvas picks up some bits of the paint and not others. So that's going to create some natural shadows. Okay, so then I'm going to take some of the sap green, I'm going to add a little bit of white, and I'm just going to add some more interest into the lake. So I'm going to take that just coming down like there's more reflections. So I'm just putting my palette knife perpendicular to my painting and just very lightly pulling that down. So it should just only take the tops of the canvas. I think that creates such a nice effect. You can also use that effect in the mountains, so I can take some brown and add a bit of white to that. And you don't even have to blend that fully. You can just start adding some interest into the mountain. You can add a bit more white because I think that colour is a bit too similar to what I've already got there. And that really creates like a rock-like effect. You can even add some darker tones in there too. So these are obviously not like huge things, but they just add to the overall feel of a painting, and they also add a bit of interest when you look up close. So you can, if you've got like a paper towel lying around, you can just wipe the most of it off. And we can even take that same effect down into the lake. We can take some of the white and the blue. And we can start adding some little bits to reflect the sky. Or you can take some green and add that as some green highlights, reflecting the trees in the background. Or you can use that really dark mixture that we had before of indigo and green. And you can pull that line even further down. We don't want to go too far with the palette knife, but I just think it really adds just a little bit more something special. So there we go, I think the painting is finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you guys liked it. If you did, then make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because it lets me know what sort of content you guys like. And come see what I'm up to on social media. I post on Instagram regularly, so come find me there. The links are in the description box. And I'll see you in the next video.